we go, episode 5. How long are we going to keep saying what number we're on?
I feel like after 4, it was appropriate to just kind of slide into the rest.
Okay, all right. So here we are, episode 5.
Episode 5.
Today, we're talking about all things wellness.
Yes.
Because we've had a lot of people ask about it.
Yeah.
We're no pros, but
we're not pros in this area.
We'll give you our 2 cents.
But we'll give you the best that we can.
But y'all already know that we don't start out with
we got
topic.
No.
We gotta warm up and we gotta warm y'all up. Okay?
Yes, we gotta warm up a little bit. We gotta warm y'all up a little bit. And so we're gonna start this podcast off with, drumroll, our icks.
Here we
Which
go.
This I already know could get me in trouble.
Oh, for sure.
But listen, everyone has them. And if you pretend that you don't have icks, I don't buy it because you ain't Jesus. Okay? So, do you want to start off with an ick or do you want me to just...
Okay, you go first.
Okay.
And then...
Okay. So, my ick is controversial. Maybe. And I feel like it's an ick that I can't relate to yet.
Okay.
But if you're pregnant and you rub your belly, no. You just stand there rubbing your belly. No. It gives me, and I...
Listen...
It gives me such an ick. Do you want to know what I think it is, though?
Okay,
I have sensory. I'm like very sensitive to sensory stuff.
Okay.
So like, and maybe it's more so like an emotional attachment issue that I have.
Yes.
But like to just imagine these hands just rubbing the belly, just in conversation, just rubbing it. It gives me an ick.
I get the sensory thing.
Yes.
Also, I get how it can look weird on the outside.
Yeah.
But it's like...
Okay, but if you're watching video, it's even people that do this.
Oh, yeah. Like just on their leg? Yeah.
Does that give you the ick right now that I'm doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well...
And then when it's the belly and you're just...
Okay, I think the thing is, though, is that when it's your belly, it's almost like, you know how you like rub your baby's back when you have the baby? It's like...
No, I don't know that, but... I can imagine.
It's almost like when you're rubbing your baby's back. It's like when it's in your belly still. You just
so it's like a form of affection.
It is a form of affection.
Okay,
but I totally get how
it could
if
be.
You have not walked through that yet. It would be an ick.
Yeah, yeah. So that's an ick, and I'll report back whenever that time comes for myself.
Yes.
Or you'll just notice me doing it, and you'll be like,
I honestly can't wait when Abby gets pregnant because I feel like I'll be on speed dial a lot with random things.
Hey, is this normal?
I mean, like, obviously she can call her mom, but
Right.
But her mom is a doula.
She is a doula.
So she's the expert, but in the friend department when she's like, what the heck is happening to my body?
I don't know if you're the same way. Sorry, mom, if you're listening to this, but it's like, if your mom says something, you're just like, ugh, whatever. Like, not always. Like,
I think we all do that at some level.
I think if I'm like calling my mom for specific advice.
Yeah.
Not to like vent or whatever,
yeah.
but if I'm just calling her for her help, I like value that.
Yes.
But if it's like I'm calling her just to vent and she starts to like give me advice, I'm like, no, I didn't ask for this.
I needed just to vent.
I just needed to vent. Okay, that's what this is about. So
no, I definitely do that. I will call my mom and just randomly talk about.
Yeah.
Especially when we did not live by each other. Like there were times when I lived in LA and she still lived in Arkansas. And I would call her all the time.
All the time.
Being like, this happened.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a good ick.
Mm-hmm. What's your ick?
Okay. My ick, which I'm scarred now from what just happened a few minutes ago. Gritty matcha.
Ew.
It's an ick.
Yeah.
I just opened up because I like to have a fun little drinky drink whenever we do the podcast. And I don't have one today. Also, neither do you.
I don't either.
Oh, well.
Neither one of us do.
Okay. But I got the pop and bottle matcha can and they sell them at Target now. So I got it from Target and it was gross.
It wasn't good.
I literally told Abby it tastes like rotten avocado.
She handed it to me. She's like, do you want to taste it? And I was like, I'll smell it first. I smelled it and I was like, I don't think I can.
I don't think
I didn't even try it. So I can see how because it smelled like almost like if dirt can rot, that's what it smelled like.
No, yeah. So I'm sorry. Pop and bottle, I do love your little cold brew lattes that you have in the can.
Stay in that lane.
Matcha ain't it? No, but it's really, you gotta have, if you're gonna have matcha, it has to be like a ceremonial grade.
Yeah.
And it has to be very well blended.
Yes.
No grit.
No grit.
So
I respect
my first stick.
So I feel like my icks are more about people, which is this is a problem. Okay, so my second ick is if you go to the gym and you lift weights, and if I'm there, lift weights, working out, whatever. If you are pacing the gym, pacing where we're gonna bump into each other if I decide to go grab something different or whatever. You're pacing the gym, or if you are lifting weights so heavy that like you're about to bust a blood vessel. That's an ick. Like, like lifting these weights. Just go down a level, bro.
Just one level. Just go down one level.
Or when the weights are just like dropped, where they like bang on the ground.
Yep.
Y'all, that is such an ick. There are specific people that go to my gym in my apartment that if I walk down to use the gym and I see them in there, I will walk back upstairs. I'm not kidding.
You're like, I'm waiting an hour.
Yes, I'm going to come back later. Just because it's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it plays into the sensory thing again.
Maybe it does.
I don't know. But that's another ick. If you're at the gym and you're acting a fool, just be known that you're probably giving me the ick. Or someone like me, the ick. It's like the awareness of others. I think just when people lack it gives me an ick.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Your turn.
Okay. I literally told Abby last night I would think of my icks and then I didn't. So I'm pulling these out.
Yeah. Which, by the way, let's talk about what an ick is. An ick, if you haven't caught on already, is just something that just like grinds your gears.
Yeah. Grinds our gears.
It just grinds your gears. You just get very about it.
Okay. I think that my ick is when if you're a parent and you are at like other like little play gyms or things like that.
Yeah.
Just wait till you get to that point.
Give us the good stuff.
It's like I don't like when other parents are giving you judgy looks or things like that.
We do not like that.
And this is no offense. Like, honestly, if you are a parent and you have the time to just be 100 all the time, I love that for you.
Yeah, right.
But I don't. So when I'm dragging my 3 kids to the play gym or something and there's someone that's like just either they've got it all together or they're trying to act like they have it all together, whether that be full on dressed out when I'm in my Lululemon pants and a sweatshirt, that is an ick for me. That's
an ick. And you know what? It should be. Let's have a little bit more authenticity around here, shall we?
That's right. So, and these are just things that, again, grind our gears.
Yeah,
and
these are just things
they're
that
not personal.
They're not I couldn't give you a name.
No, me neither.
I really couldn't.
No.
And even if I could, I probably shouldn't. I'm just kidding.
Gym.
No, I don't have a specific name.
Yeah.
Other
than my poppin' bottle matcha, sorry. that was specific.
Very, very specific. What spurred this is I was talking to Logan last night about, I said something, I'm like, you know what? That's an ick for me. And I said, I'm going to text Taylor and tell her that's how we have to open the podcast. Yeah. And I forgot what the ick was. But if I remember it.
If we just pop off at a random ick, then.
We'll put it in the Instagram stories or something. Right. Yeah. What are y'all's icks? Let us know.
Yeah, please let us know. Also, last week, we ended our episode with Abby saying that if somebody could guess what kind of coffee she was drinking.
Who was it?
Her name was Darcy.
Okay, Darcy, if you're listening to this, DM me.
Yes, I told
Instagram.
her, she commented on our Spotify account. She actually commented on the episode and guessed it right. And I was like, wait, only you need to DM us on Instagram because you can't click on somebody's name
and know who it is
on Spotify.
Okay, so Darcy, if you're listening to this, DM us either on Their Better Half or my personal page. And coffee's on me, girl. And maybe even a little treat because you knew the answer.
Yes,
which was a half sweet iced vanilla latte.
That's right. And,
my go-to.
And you know what? She actually gave both of yours. She said it's either a iced vanilla latte half sweet or a flat white. And I said,
oh my gosh.
She actually is such a good
listener. That is my girl. Okay, Darcy, you know me well.
That's right.
That's cool.
So that was fun. But we've had a few questions about wellness. People have asked.
Wait, can I say one more thing?
Of course. Of course you can.
Okay,
Abby.
we just really quickly need to talk about something.
What?
Lainey Wilson was done wrong.
Oh, shoot.
At the Grammys. I'm sorry. I'm not even afraid to say it.
I'm not afraid to say it either.
One, I'm not a Beyonce fan.
I'm not either. I'm sorry.
Secondly,
I'm not, but
okay, Texas Hold'em, I'll run to the song.
Yeah.
But like someone that has spent their entire career in this specific lane of music.
Yeah.
And whose last album was killer. For her to have not received, like, she deserved that Grammy.
Beyonce even got it over Chris Stapleton,
Which
too.
Don't even get us
started. I'm sorry. I think what I value is if you want to be, I think as artists, if you want to get creative and evolve, that's totally cool. But I would never, if I was a pop artist, I would never step into a country lane after 20 years and then just expect Grammys.
Yeah.
It's like, but wait, somebody else would, like, people value you as Beyonce, like in your category.
Lane,
like,
in your category.
You are queen in that. People love that.
Yeah.
But like Lainey is a queen. She's a country queen.
Lainey is our country queen.
She is.
Which, by the way, guys, I'm not going to Kelsey Ballerini. I know. We needed to just let them know.
I was gonna see if Abby said it.
Yeah.
You know what? I had a really, really emotional week,
and this was just icing on the cake.
And I was really, really sad. But it's okay.
No, but listen,
because the reason is why. The reason is
if I was not training. Well, not even if I wasn't training. One, if I had done a marathon before, I'd be there. Two,
also if it wasn't as close.
If it wasn't as close to the race, I'd be there. Side note, DC is probably my favorite place on the East Coast. I love DC so much. So when you first presented us with this trip, I'm like, oh my gosh, sign me up. Like, I'm going. And it was even funny because at that time you were training for the half marathon. And we were like joking like, oh, we're going to have to run. Because it was going to be the weekend before the race. But I was like, the closer we've gotten to it, I did not expect my body to feel the way it feels. Like, I've kind of even paused all my walks. My legs are just
tired,
really tired.
Yeah.
And I know the trip is going to have a lot of walking, touring. And
see, I've never been, so I don't know.
Yes. You're going to have, which I think I'm also low-key a little bit like jealous that I don't get to experience that with you because it is seriously like, you're going to absolutely love it. You'll have so much fun. But
it's okay. We get to do round 2. We'll get a do-over.
Yeah, we'll get a do-over for sure. But then so many sicknesses going around that like, and I know you can get sick anywhere. So this might even piggyback on like the fear episode that we did.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want it to seem like I'm like living in fear of that happening. I just feel like in a venue with so many people and like being in DC is very like congested with like crowds and all of that stuff. It just has a higher chance of picking something up. And so I would like probably like really be down on myself if something happened where I did get sick and I was not able to do the race. So not saying that can't happen here, but I just felt like that was the wise thing to do. But I am really sad about it.
Yeah.
But sad. You guys are going to have so many fun stories.
But me and Bailey are going to just have a good old time.
Yeah, you guys are going to have so much fun. She's going to make you fall in love with DC. So
Bailey is like, she just does her own little itinerary.
Well, she's got the whole itinerary for you guys. I know. And she knows all like the good spots because she's also too been quite a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going with the right person.
So
it'll be fun.
Abby can't go anymore, but it's okay. And Drew and I are going to Wilmington the next weekend.
Do you forgive me?
I do forgive you.
I know. And I thought about that too. I'm like, they're coming to the race for me. But I just was like, I'm going to have so much time to make it up to all my friends that have sacrificed all of the things for me for this silly training.
She's
cycle.
like 2 weeks.
I think it's also too, it's so unknown. Like I don't know what it's going to feel like. I don't know. I don't have an appetite right now. I'm so nervous.
This is a great segue into the wellness portion of the or segment of the episode. So I think it would be a good idea if we this has been a theme for us.
I love
we just give each other's journeys.
I love that.
So why don't you talk about your journey to wellness and kind of how you got to where you are now?
Okay.
Healthy and unhealthy mindsets.
Okay. I love that. Because I've had some unhealth.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow, this is actually probably because I'm open. Yeah. But it will, I'll like dive into it a little bit. Okay. So growing up, I was not an athletic child at all. I did not play sports. I did 1 year of Pop Warner cheerleading. And I absolutely hated it. And I begged my mom to never have me do that again. I'm like the most uncoordinated person you'll ever meet. I'm not kidding. And I was in college and I went to Meredith College and we do this thing called Cornhusking, if anyone's familiar. It's basically like Meredith College's homecoming because we don't have boys, so there's no like football. And so we do Cornhusking. And so each class gets like a theme and you have all of these dances and like skits associated with the theme. And one year you practice at nighttime, like in the dark, in the parking lots. It's like this whole fun thing. But I was in the front row during one of the dances. And one of the girls in the back, if you're listening to this, I still think about it to this day. I cannot remember your name. But she was like, why is Abby in the front? She needs to move to the back because I'm that bad at dancing. Yeah. So that just gives you a picture of like my athletic ability.
Yeah.
I'm not athletic. Yeah. Super uncoordinated. I started running for fun. I worked at a gym when I was in high school from freshman year to senior year in the kids' room. And I would just run on the treadmill like before or after shifts.
Yeah.
And so it was really just like for fun. And then I did that through college because I lived at Meredith College right on the Greenway. And I started to get into running more seriously when I started training for my first half marathon in 2018. The race was in 2019 and it was Wilmington. So I think that's when I kind of started to take running as like goal oriented more seriously. And then that whole like running journey could be an episode in and of itself. But I will say I had never equated in my mind the effect of exercise and like body weight. And because I didn't grow up doing sports. Yeah. And so when you start taking something more seriously, you start to have this awareness of like, oh, the more I exercise and the less I eat, the way it's gonna like impact my body in a certain way. Yeah. And not that it was ever like an unhealthy thing until probably 2020 when I experienced like that whole like breakup thing. Yeah. And in the pandemic and everything. But if anyone has gone through any sort of like loss or grief or whatever, you know how it can impact either like one end of the pendulum when it comes to like your appetite. Yeah. So like either you don't have one and it's hard to eat or like that's what you do to cope.
Lean on,
Yes, you lean on it. For me, it was like I could not eat and I rapidly lost like a lot of weight. And then I started running and it just became this like really unhealthy relationship with running, food, and my body. And so it took like probably a year and a half where I don't know if anyone's familiar, but I had HA, which is like a loss of your menstrual cycle for like a year and a half. Did you know this?
I think you mentioned it briefly. I didn't know what the actual name of it was.
Yeah. So it's like hypothalamic amenorrhea. So it's basically when you have a loss of your menstrual cycle for 3 months or longer in a row. Okay. And so I have a good friend. She's a registered dietitian. And I like opened up to her about this and she like kind of geared me in the right direction of like, hey, you need to get help with this. Yeah. And so I didn't really take it serious until like I met Logan. And I'm like, okay, I really need to like heal this part of my life. And so I actually paused running for like 6 months and I did not run and I was not a happy person. But I will say like, yes, I am fully healed in that area. But like I take wellness and exercise very seriously because it's just a way that our bodies are, it's almost like God created us and he has blessed us with bodies and the ability to exercise and to steward our bodies well. Yeah. And I just feel like I have been through seasons where I have not done that. And when your body shuts down and does not have a cycle, that's basically your body's way of saying like, especially as a female, like you're not fueling. Right. I don't feel safe to operate in the way that you're designed to operate. Yeah. Yeah. And so that my friend actually told me that. And I think it put a lot in perspective for me where now I fuel to run. I don't run to eat. Right. If that makes sense. Yeah. And so I think like it's definitely a journey. And if anyone has like struggled in that area, like I can relate 100%. But it's also tied with, and I've worked through this with therapy. Like my dad had, type 2 diabetes. And so I think there was just like these things that I experienced from my relationship with him and like health stewarding and all of those things where I think I'm just like passionate about health and wellness and like stewarding our bodies well. And I can speak to that because like I said, I've been on both sides of it. Yeah. Where now I'm like I think I have a lot more freedom with food and like wellness and stuff. But I also too am like super sensitive to like certain ways of eating in the name of health when really there's like an aesthetic goal. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. Where I think, to be frank, there's nothing wrong with having aesthetic goals through like wellness and exercise and all of that stuff. But I think the root and the heart behind it, if not careful, you can like get gray.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of my history with like why I'm passionate about certain things. And I've been like, it's literally been, if you can't see this on camera, but like my arm is doing the wave. I'm doing the roller coaster. So it's definitely been like an up and down relationship where by the grace of God, I'm healthy today and I'm operating the way that I need to. But it's not an easy thing, especially like in today's culture and all of that stuff. So
yeah.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
I like droned on about it.
No, that's great. So my journey with wellness has been so up and down as well. I think everybody's has. But for me, I just literally had no idea until I was like 18 or 19 when Drew and I got married.
Yeah.
It was that moment when we got married and like we were able to, like we were responsible for like buying our own groceries and like, you know, creating our own life. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, like I have the power to choose what I put in my body.
Yes.
I think, you know, growing up, I live in a very Southern family. Okay. My grandma is the grandma that's like, oh, you're not hungry? You're going to eat. Eat
and like
something.
finish your plate.
Yeah. Finish your plate.
Finish your plate.
Yeah. And she's like got her canister of bacon grease up in the cabinet and, you know, all the things. Anyways, I love them. That's what makes them. But yeah, I mean, health was never really like a forefront focus.
Yeah.
For me growing up. So, and too, like, I mean, my mom was a single mom.
Yes.
Like we were just trying to make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm really grateful that we were able to just make it.
Yes.
And so that wasn't a focus. So I think once I got married and I was like, oh, I can just make my own meal plans. And I started making it like really fun and just, I don't know. I was like, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
So that's when I started switching. I went paleo during our like second year of marriage. And I was paleo for like 3 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And it was like the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
If you don't know, in quick, paleo is no grains, gluten, dairy.
Yeah.
Basically just only whole foods. After a while you can work
certain things
like grass-fed dairy back in and stuff like that. Which I did. So I loved that. That was the best I felt. Then we moved to LA and I would say it was actually even better in the term of more food was available to me and more like good quality was available to me. Cause in Arkansas, it was like, and so that was fun. But then in turn, moving to LA has its own, everything's about image.
Yes.
And so I think that is where it shifted from fun for me to, I got to keep up.
Yeah.
And then, but I also realized during my time in LA, I started working out at a few different places and just realized, oh, this actually helps me mentally so much. Like if I don't work out or do some sort of movement, I feel so pent up mentally.
Yes, that's exactly how I can relate to that.
Yeah. And then you just, once I do, I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Feel better.
Yeah.
But I started working out in LA, loved it. Again, you're in LA. It's going to have some sort of pressure with an image. So then I got pregnant and all changed.
Yeah.
Fam, all changed. I would say that I've always struggled with body image. I've always struggled with, I would even say like, what do they call it? Body dysmorphia?
Yes.
It's like you look in the mirror and see one thing and then like
no one sees it.
No one sees that.
Yes.
I think we all probably experience that. But really started struggling kind of like with body dysmorphia and a lot of struggles about my own body. And then when I tell you, if you have your own struggles and then you get pregnant, it is a whole different world.
Yes.
Like I was not aware or prepared for the way that it was going to affect me in my wellness mindset.
Yeah.
I never struggled with like, oh, I'm getting bigger. I never struggled with that because I was like, oh, like I got a cute belly and like I'm having a baby. Like none of that ever bothered me.
Yeah.
But the postpartum is like
Because it's almost like during pregnancy, your body is...
You're like okay with it because
it's like growing. Sustaining life.
Exactly.
And then once the life has been sustained and you've given birth, it's almost like your body becomes yours again.
Yes.
And now you're having to navigate that aspect of like, I'm not sustaining life anymore. Yeah. So it's like you're almost back in that, okay, it's time to like get back to it.
It literally like, I mean, they say it takes 2 full years to mentally and physically recover from childbirth, like physiologically. So, I mean.
Well, then you had a second child.
Right. So I had them back to back. I only had a year. So I found out I was pregnant with my second on my first child's birthday. So that was back to back. So my body, that's why they say like, if you have them back to back, it's actually insane. Like your body is not ready, which is, I mean, it's okay. And it does what it needs to do. But then I had a third and it's like, I don't even know how to explain it, but you basically you're okay with it during the pregnancy. And then afterwards, I think after my third, which is where I'm at now, is actually the hardest time that I've had just because I'm totally done having kids.
Yeah.
I think when I had my first, I was like, oh, well, I might have more. So, you know, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like there's no reason for me to get back to like all the way to point A whenever I'm probably going to have more children and my body's going to go through this again. So I had my second, had my third. Now we're completely done. And so I think that's whenever I realize like, okay, like I'm fully done. My youngest is only 18 months old, by the way. So, I mean, I haven't even hit the full 2-year mark, but just kind of dealing with a lot of what comes up with that. Mm-hmm. And then I would say for me with wellness in general, I've just been learning so much about the mental and spiritual side of that and how it plays into your physical, like, and we can talk about that. But yeah, as far as like our individual journeys, I would say that's mine.
Yeah. So I do think also too, women struggle with this societal pressure to like take up less space. Yeah. And it's so like, I think it can be so not only physically, but I think like verbally, through conversation, through like contribution. I just think that there's just this overall expectation that like women are just to be smaller. And I think however you let that kind of integrate into your life is different for everyone. But I think your take on even having children and how that not only impacts you physically, but also mentally and emotionally, it affects your marriage. Like there's so many different components that I could see it even potentially getting to a place of just like, whatever. Like you just kind of like, those it moments, just is what it is. And I think that also too, we both feel passionate about how we steward our bodies and like what we, and I think, but what we decide to like fuel ourselves with. But I will say, I think we both have hit a place where like balance is key. And I think that I've been through times where like it's hard to accept, at least for me now, like a changing body where it's like, it's almost like you're never satisfied. So like no matter what you get to, it's almost like it's so temporary because you just never know what's next. And like even through marathon training, like people don't talk about it, but like you gain weight. And it's if you're losing weight training for a marathon, you're not doing it properly. I would argue. It's a huge tax on your body. And I think that it was something that I've heard about, but I wasn't expecting to experience it. And I think it's almost like similar, and if not like, obviously it's not the same thing, but like through pregnancy, you're almost sacrificing your body for a season. Sure. And with that comes changes and, you know, sizing is different. And then your basically hormones are different. Everything is just different. And I think,
and I really struggled too with, there are people, and you'll probably be one of them. Because you're very small. You have a small frame. Yeah. Abby's like really small. You're small in general. Like you have a small shoe size. Like
I do
you're
have
just
a small shoe size. Yeah, my shoes are pretty small.
You do.
But I got shoulders like a linebacker. Whatever. Hey, they're broad and I'm proud. I'm actually not. They're probably my biggest insecurity.
Girl, no, that's me too. So I think like, I said that because out of love for Abby, because I was like, she'll probably be one of them. But there are women who just like have a baby and then just like bounce back like that. And I struggled with not being one of those women. Like I was like, you know, and it also, isn't that crazy? Like there are some women who just like have a baby and then like a few months later they're like,
well, and I do think that like
size.
that's also the comparison game of just being a woman, where I do think that like, you, if not careful, you can just fall into that all the time.
Oh yeah.
And so many different things where it's like, okay, I make peace with this now, but in X amount of time, I better blank. And it's like, if you don't, well, they did it. You know what I mean? And so I think there's just this, it can just be a vicious cycle.
It is.
Where I think both of us could maybe even just step back and think like, it's almost like trying to develop this appreciation for what your body's carried you through. Yeah. Instead of like, and I'm guilty of this, but like almost just like beating yourself down based off of.
And I think too,
all of those things.
In terms of pregnancy, it definitely, it gets crazier with like multiple children. like my doctor told me this. I mean, like your body, I mean, you're essentially just stretching it and stretching it and stretching it. You do it once, okay, it's got a little more bounce back to it. Second, third time, it doesn't. Like it's, you know, so that is like another thing. So pregnancy in itself was a huge part of like my wellness journey. One that I'm like, I guess kind of still getting back to post having my third. Yeah. But I mean, speaking of wellness, so I just thought it'd be cool to talk about my testing.
Please talk
just
about
so people know. But I got this thing called bioenergetic testing. It's a very holistic testing. Yeah. Okay. So it's not, you can't just go to a medical doctor and get it. No offense.
No way.
Definitely can't. But they basically take your hair and saliva sample and they run like all of these things, right? Like it tests your hormones and it'll tell you the 3 main systems and the 3 main organs in your body that are struggling the most. So I got that testing done and it was like a super emotional day for me because I was like validated in the sense that I got it because I knew something was not right. Like, I know my hormones are off. I know since I had my third, it's been not the same, like just so many things and just not feeling good, even though despite like good diet and good exercise, like just not feeling good. So I was validated in the sense that I knew, like, okay, you're right. You know, you can listen to your body. Like, you know, something's going on, but of course you're disappointed when they're like, oh, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. And you need to take this and do this. And I'm like, oh gosh. Like, and she was actually really good about like, she was like, I'm not even going to overwhelm you with steps 3, 4, 5, 6. We're just going to do step 1. I was like, okay, thank you. Yeah. And so even when it comes down to like the food sensitivities, like she was like, I'm not going to tell you those yet. She's like, we're just going to focus on getting your gut and your immune system strong. And then we'll tackle kind of like what.
Do you get the food sensitivities with it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you don't know yours yet?
I don't know them yet.
Oh, that would drive me mad.
I know. She told me she would go ahead and tell me.
Yeah.
But mentally, I just don't think I'm there yet. Yeah. Like, I think I need to focus on getting good first. Yeah. Because I already like geek out about food and stuff. So I think it would just be, you know. But
it's like information overload basically is what you're navigating.
Yeah. Yeah. But whenever we did the testing results, what I was most, I guess, wowed at is she was like, Taylor, your mental and emotional health is manifesting itself physically. And she was like, all of these maybe past traumas, whether it be like from things like childbirth, pregnancy, or childhood, like your past traumas you are carrying them very heavily and it's manifesting.
Well, it's like lives physically in your gut.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so mind gut connected.
There's a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Yes.
Have you read it?
I haven't read it, but I've heard it's so good.
I've only read half of it, but it's very good. And so it is true. Like, I'm not even trying to sound like some voodoo crazy person. Y'all know I love Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, we love him.
That is not it. It's just, I've been wowed at learning that is the case.
Well, can I stop you
there?
Yeah,
of course.
But if you even think about that, because I think that there is this misconception of being in tune with where our body operates, psychological well-being and all of that. And I think that like, if you look even through scripture and the way that God really, really emphasizes forgiveness and to process through like community and with him and through prayer and all of these things, that there's value to that. And it's not just for nothing. And I think that he created us and he knows exactly the way everything is all intertwined. Yeah. And I think that's why, I mean, he created food, he created medicine, you know, there's so many things that like he created these things to help us on the side of heaven. And so I think that we have an advantage to see it from that perspective. And then it's able to like help us because overall, like that's even just his goal too, is to like come alongside us and like we can partner and do things that will help us. Yeah.
And I think too, like one of the, like if you're listening to this and you resonate with this, I hope it helps you. Cause for me, it was like, okay, I have really given my all. Like I can say with full confidence, I've given my all with the things that I eat and the way that I move my body. Like I have exercised through and through. I have taken care of my wellness. I have eaten well, and I still don't feel good. And I still am not like, even one of my problems that I'm having is muscle tone. Like I'm having problems with my connective tissues. So even like not even being able to hold muscle tone, and things like that. So it's just a good thing to be able to be like, okay, yes, I am in tune with my body. I felt like something was wrong and it was. Yeah. So I'm just saying, if you consistently work out and eat well and you still feel like trash, something might be wrong.
Something might be wrong. Okay, what would you recommend to someone who, if potentially that is where they're at with it and they like don't know where to start, but potentially like can't pursue the testing? Like what would you say if someone is really like to the end of their exercise journey or they don't know what to do? Like what would you recommend just from experience?
From my experience, what I would recommend is, first, let's define eating well. Right. Because that is definitely personalized. And I think that, I mean, let's just be honest. I'm not hating, okay? Maybe this falls into the it category.
Okay, shoot us with another it.
Whatever. Like a Cliff Bar is not healthy. Okay? Right. Like those things are not healthy.
Okay, and I will say too, I think, and I've even really struggled with this because there are things within like this Americanized standard diet that you might look at and be like, no. Yeah. But I have had to come to terms with like, as someone who participates in an endurance activity, things like Pop-Tarts or Cliff Bars and stuff like that. So I think you're right in terms of like looking at it from like the big picture, right? So like, what does your activity level look like? What are the things that you're engaging in? What is your, if you're waking up in the morning and you don't have an appetite, that's a bad sign. Right. Like you should wake up feeling hungry. Your body has just fasted for 8 to 12 hours. Yeah. So you really should have these cues that if you're cold all the time, like there's so many different markers for hormone, metabolic, and just overall health.
Yeah. I mean, I think
that just was a tangent. It started with a Cliff Bar. Like this is what I'm saying. I can like really go on about this.
Now, okay. Yeah, no, we can totally go on about this. Yeah. But like what I was saying is if you are at the end and you're like, I eat well, it's like, okay, but let's really evaluate if you eat well. Yeah. Because, and I don't say that in a shameful way whatsoever. I think it's just, like you said, the American standardized diet, the things that they even put in our quote unquote healthy food is not good for you. Yeah. So, reading labels, like, and guys, it gets exhausting. Like sometimes it does. And it takes work.
It takes a lot of work, but you will realize as you're doing it. Yeah. And something that I would even recommend too, if you are financially able to do this, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself, is just like privilege of being able to like have these decisions. And that's a conversation, shout out to Elton, that I had with Elton over this very topic. Yeah. And because he's in the healthcare system, but we're not going to get into that right now, but just focusing on the outside of the grocery store. So like, if you can walk the perimeter of the grocery store, like try to stay within that parameter as much as you can. And of course you're going to go into the middle aisles, but the more that you can stay on the perimeter and not even have the full knowledge and awareness, I think that that's already setting you up for just a potential difference. And I would even recommend journaling and not like in terms of macro counting or like, I wouldn't even go that far. I would just say being aware of how things make you feel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you eat a certain meal or you cook a specific meal, just really paying attention to what your body is telling you based off of like digesting that meal and then a couple hours later.
Yeah.
And I think you'll start to learn a lot with how how food really does impact the way that we feel.
Yeah.
And it's all, like you said, it's all connected.
It is all connected. I think the easiest tips would be, like Abby said, obviously we've all heard, you know, like stay on the outer perimeters of the grocery store. And then also like when you look at your plate, is it whole foods? Like I think that's been the absolute easiest thing for me.
Right.
Like a typical breakfast for me does not look like what you would think a breakfast would look like, really. Like sometimes I'll eat like just grass-fed beef and sweet potatoes and eggs.
Yeah.
Like it does not,
so
you know what I mean?
This is so funny because my sister is a therapy nutrition. I'm going to botch this, but NTP, nutritional therapy practitioner. And so she went to school and basically like studied all of this stuff. So honestly, if you have any questions, you should ask her. Yeah. But she is like super passionate about like the effects of supplements, protein, just the way that like food is correspondent with our hormones. And she actually did the HTMA test, which is your hair. She's like a hair sample and sent it off, which I'm going to do after the marathon. Okay. But they test all, it's probably included. Kind of you probably did that. Did you send a hair sample? Yeah. Yeah. Then they probably did this, but she came back and she's like, my magnesium is perfect. And she said, and I don't even supplement. And I'm like, well, girl, you know, you're getting it through your food. Yeah. So anyways, I supplement with magnesium every single day.
Yeah. But just for me, looking at my plate, is it whole foods? Like that's what I try to really look at. And like this segues into, you know, of course, balance as well.
Because I do think, and I have to be careful with this because with past experience, I'm like all or nothing. Yeah. Like I think it was like over the summer, my sister suggested that I cut out a lot of like refined sugars and gluten because of just issues that I was experiencing. And I'm like, okay, if you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And I think that led to a very like, it's restrictive mindset, especially coming from someone that has experienced a restrictive lifestyle. And so I have to be really careful with that and having that balance and allowing myself to like still enjoy things in the name of like health versus, and health is not just physical. It can be mental, emotional. There are so many things that food is for us that like, we're not saying that you can't have things that like taste good and that are, that you love. Of course you can. And I think it's just like you said, balance where, okay, what does my plate look like? Yeah. What is my consistency? What are my patterns? Like, and assessing that.
I think the two things, sorry guys, y'all know us. We need to get some merch that says rabbit trailing or
like we need to get like cue cards,
literally
like stay on topic.
Sorry guys. But Abby asked me what would be, if I couldn't do the testing, what would be my two things? My first thing would be just looking at your plate. Is it whole foods? That's very simple. That's something easy that you can do. And then second of all, are you actually paying attention to the way that your body likes to exercise? Yes. Or are you just making it do things? Yes. And I know that sounds silly, but
no, that's really good.
It's true. It's like,
so true.
There are some people that have, like I'm learning, I have like really high cortisol and really, low dopamine. Yes. And so my nutritionist that I was talking to, she's like, you like high intensity stuff is not going to suit you right now. Yeah. Like you need to be doing, which again, I've learned I love doing like Pilates. Yeah. It's low intensity, still tones you. Like, so I'm just saying, like Abby's a runner. I can't go do that right now. In fact, if you know us, I tried to do the half marathon and I made it 6 weeks and found out very quickly. And now it makes sense because I got this testing back and I'm like, okay,
you were basically spot on. You were fighting, your body was fighting against it.
Yeah. I was like, I was feeling so not well.
I will say that's why I had to take time off because I was every single run and paying attention to how you're feeling before and after. Yeah. Like if you're dreading it, if you are, it's the last thing you want to do. Y'all, low-key, I might be there at this point.
Okay, listen, she has a reason to be there at this point.
But I will say like, it's signs of burnout and it's signs of like, hey, you this just might not be the exercise for you that's best suited for your body. Now, I believe movement is so important.
Yes.
And I also, don't get me started on my tangent about strength training for women and how important it is for our muscles. Because the more that you age, the more that your muscles deteriorate and then you lose bone density, and it's a vicious cycle. So ladies, if you are not strength training, pick up the dumbbells, do some strength training.
Even Pilates has like dumbbells with it now. So you can even do, even some of the Pilates that I do will have up to like 15 pounds each hand.
And I would even say like the more consistent I've been with strength training, that's like the best that I felt. Prioritizing like strength training. Yep. And I will say another tip is also just set small goals for yourself. Yeah. Like it does not have to be this like all out, full throttle thing. Right. Where you just start in one specific space. And I promise you guys, the more that you like set goals and you accomplish them, like your confidence will start to build up. And then it almost becomes this motivator where you want to continue like building these goals and working towards things and accomplishing things for yourself. Yeah. And it's just,
and the overall,
I'm passionate about
once you start, can't you tell? We've had no problem talking about this. We've been blabbing about it the whole time.
Hour, but like we probably need to like
we don't need that.
Wrap it up.
No, so I mean, essentially, like once you start doing those two things, just moving at some capacity, and eating whole foods, you're gonna feel good.
You're gonna feel better,
and it might take you a long time.
And it's really hard, especially if you've experienced emotional. Like you said, I think that we can be tied emotionally to either some sort of exercise. For me, running became the thing that like kept me going. Yeah. And so I leaned on it and it became this outlet for me. Yeah. And while I think to a certain extent that's healthy, it can also be unhealthy. And so I think you're right, where you have to pay attention to how you're feeling, what it's doing for you and how it's serving you rather than how you're serving it. And I think that through that, like you'll find those things, but it is so important for like movement and just fueling and just nourishing. I would even say is probably the better word, just nourishing your body. Yeah. Nourishing your body. I just hit the mic.
Us in these mics. Yeah. So overall, I think that, these are the journeys that we've been on with it and the things that we've done that have helped us. Again, we're not like experts, but we are experts on our own body, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we are working on that.
We're working on it.
But seriously. And I think that like a majority of our audience are females. So if you have ever or you are currently struggling with your body image, health, wellness, finding forms of movement, insecurities, things like that physically, you can like reach out to us. Like I'm super passionate about this and I love talking about it. And I do believe also too that our struggles and past experiences are not for nothing. And so if like things that I've gone through can help someone, I'm so willing to like have conversation.
And we both talk about this outwardly on our social media.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a journey, but I think the last thing I will say about it is just remembering that like your two things. One, your mental health, if it's not in a good space, you're working against your physical health. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've learned that. That's where I'm at in this boat right now, guys. Okay. Yeah. And then second of all, they say like, if you don't sleep, you're also just working against your body. Like sleep is the way you heal. If you do not have good sleep, it's almost just, I don't want to say like you're doing it for nothing, but you are working against yourself. Yes. Yeah.
That's when our bodies recover. Yeah. When you are sleeping.
Yes.
So I totally sleep.
Yep.
Preach. Taylor just took us to church.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a good way to end the episode would be, what are your actual day-to-day tips? Like, for example, we both take magnesium. Okay. So like, give me those tips.
Okay. So first is I do not drink coffee on an empty stomach.
Yep. Same.
I eat something as soon as I wake up in the morning.
Same.
I try to aim for like 130 grams of protein a day. Mm-hmm. I do not exercise fasted.
No.
I think that there's some stuff to that, but I will say no, it's a no for me.
Yeah.
I try to get some sort of movement in, whether that's if I'm running, I will run. If it's days I'm not running, I just try to like go for a walk. I will say I mean, I do take my magnesium. I've actually started taking L-theanine.
Oh, good.
Which I actually really like.
I take it with my magnesium. Yeah.
I take it at nighttime. And then I love tart cherry juice.
Yes.
And I made the gummies.
Yes.
And they're so good.
Her sister has a recipe for tart cherry gummies that you can take before bed.
Yeah,
and
they're so good.
We both made them and they're so good.
Taylor, I eat them like this big. I'm like, I'll take a rectangle of gummy.
We need a big chunk.
Yeah. So those are my probably biggest tips. Oh,
Same
and
thing. Yeah.
I do try to get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night. Yeah. My aim is 8 to 8.5, but sometimes it's a little less.
So for me, a lot of the same thing. We do a lot of the same things. No coffee on an empty stomach, eating within an hour of waking. These are all to help balance your blood sugar.
Yes.
So you're not crashing.
And you know also what? Your metabolism.
Yes.
And what you mentioned earlier is cortisol.
Yes. It will spike your cortisol.
And you will live in a constant state of
the best you can. Try not to look at your phone. I know everybody says it.
Yeah, it's really
but
hard.
It's like your body goes from this resting state to like looking at your phone and it's like a plane crash and so and so and it's just like
it hits you into alert.
And it sends you into alert in that fight or flight mode. And so just trying not to do that. And then something that my new nurse told me is the order that you eat your food in matters.
Okay.
This is actually, you'll really like this. I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense.
I also forgot something. I eat sauerkraut every day. Okay.
Yeah. That's her tip. She loves sauerkraut.
Good
for the gut. So if you have a plate, okay, and you have a protein, a carb, a fat, whatever. If you sit down and you're starving and the first thing you go for is like, say you have like rice. The first thing you go for is the rice. It's not good.
Okay.
Because she calls it like the order of operations. So she's like, look at your plate and the first thing that you're going to eat is your protein.
Yeah.
Because the way that you eat it is the way your body starts to process it. So if the first thing you grab is your carbs, it's going to make your blood sugar crash. Yeah. Even though you're still eating protein, it's not taken in the proper order.
Wow. Great tip. What's her name?
Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Yes. And then also like the magnesium, I even have I love red light. I have like a little red light I bought online that I set up in my room. Yeah. And this is like on a good day, guys. Okay.
And I feel like on the next episode, we need to like check in about how our husbands handle our wellness obsession.
Guys.
Logan started fibbing to me about what he was eating.
Oh yeah. I have found McDonald's bags in our trash cans outside. And
I'll be like, what did you eat?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, some chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's it?
Yeah.
He's like, well, it's the French fries. I'm like, oh, did you get anything else? I got a large sweet tea. I'm like, okay.
Sit us with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, our husbands are not really on the same wavelength as us. They try.
Yeah. I will say they do try.
They do try.
Logan does definitely try.
Logan might try more than Drew, but it's okay.
I digress.
I love you, Drew. We did talk about this. Actually, Drew's come a long way in the sense of he used to not even like eat vegetables like at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like he hated them. So he'll eat like tomatoes and bell peppers and like things like that. He used to not even. So all that to say.
Right.
Those are things that we do. I do take the magnesium and L-theanine as well. Magnesium glycinate.
Yes.
Not citrate.
Send you to the bathroom.
Yes, you want magnesium glycinate.
Yeah.
And then 2, also making sure that when you buy supplements, buy good supplements.
Yes.
Don't buy supplements that have fillers in them. It's really easy to look on the back and figure out if it's a good one or not. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should make a TikTok on this.
Okay, love that. And also too, electrolytes.
Oh yes, we both take electrolytes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly probably the first thing I do. I'll just go in the kitchen and get my water and fill it with electrolytes, and I'll try to drink like a whole glass of it at least before I eat or anything.
Yeah.
But you know what?
This was a fun one.
This is a fun one.
We hope that you guys enjoyed this one.
Yes, because you know
we're not experts, but
this is a great way to also. It gives you insight to kind of how you can help yourself mentally as well. Because these things don't just help you physically. This is going to help you mentally.
It's true.
Which in turn is going to help you spiritually.
Yes.
And We all want to feel good.
We all want to feel good. So we'll catch you guys in the next one.